New law in Los Angeles says that a landlord has to pay relocation costs to a tenant if they raise the rent and the tenant can't afford it and has to move. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it's going over the end of Los Angeles's eviction moratorium. Now, before it ended, they were like, you know what? We're going to have to put some new laws in place so that we can punish landlords or help tenants, as they claim, right? But the truth is, we know the only thing these laws are going to do is punish landlords, right? They basically wanted to put the eviction protections in there that were so strong that landlords would never ever be able to remove anybody. So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely idiotic in my opinion, but they were like, you know what, we're going to tell the tenants that, hey, if the landlord wants to raise the rent on you, we're going to make it so the landlord has to pay you to leave. You know how stupid that sounds to me? Paying a tenant a bonus to get the heck out of your building? I mean, give me a break. You know what? I'm 100% against any place that imposes relocation costs for tenants. If the tenant can't afford relocation costs, that's their problem, not yours. Okay? So why don't they, you know what they're going to do is they're going to make it so that landlords are going to raise their rents to the maximum amount possible. And you know what? They have to. They absolutely have to, because they could get stuck in one of these situations where they have to pay tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket. And that's just not fair. It's not right. It's not fair. And it shouldn't be happening. But you know what? That's the kind of idiocy that these city council members and these far left-leaning progressives are putting into place right now, okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. What do you think of a law that requires landlords to pay relocation costs to tenants? Okay, what do you think this is a good idea, or do you think this is a bad idea? Do you think tenants are going to try to figure out some way to take advantage of it? You know, I do. I think that a lot of small landlords in particular are going to get hit particularly hard, okay? But this isn't the only law they put in place. They actually implemented a bunch of new laws to supposedly help tenants, and I think all of them are bad. Okay, so let's get into this article, because you know what, they're going to go over the new laws they put in place at the end of this, you know, pandemic eviction moratorium that finally is coming to an end. So this article is coming from globestreet.com, and it says, Los Angeles to force landlords to pay tenants relocation costs. Tenants who balk at 10% rent increases to get 3 times rent plus moving costs. Yeah, and so from what I understand, right, let's say your rent is $3,000 a month, right? Well, the landlord has to pay 3 times that monthly rent to you, so $9,000 plus moving costs. So the landlord could end up coming 10 grand out of pocket. So what would you do if you were a landlord in this sort of situation, right? Well, if you were planning a 10% rent increase, maybe you'll just lower it to 9.99%, just to screw the tenant over so they don't get nothing. Okay, that's what I would do. But anyway, let's get into this article. Los Angeles, which still has a policy preventing landlords from evicting tenants who claim COVID-19 hardships, is planning to replace the eviction moratorium when it ends at the end of this month with a new extended set of tenant protections. According to a report in the Pasadena Star-News, the City Council is about to adopt a set of universal just cause protections, including providing relocation assistance to tenants who are facing steep rent hikes and prohibiting evictions of tenants who owe less than a certain amount of rent. So yeah, they're putting into place so that you cannot evict tenants if they only owe a certain amount. Like, now, what is that amount? And here's the big question, right? Is this a repeated problem? Okay, so we've got tenants who are always paying late, who, you know, may only owe a few $100, but they're problem tenants, and we need to get rid of them. And they're taking away the rights of the landlord to remove people from their property who they deem aren't good tenants. Okay, so that's what I have a problem with. I hate when they want to take away our property rights. I hate when they want to put more restrictions on us. I hate when they think that the tenants need a bonus for leaving. Simply put, right, if your tenant is being removed, or if a tenant has to move, right? And see, this is just it, right? If a landlord is raising the rent on a tenant, right, that's not an eviction. That's just saying, hey, this property is renting for a lot more money now, and you know what? You can't pay that amount, so you need to go and go find somewhere else. You won't be able to find anywhere else for as cheap as some of these places are renting. You know, that's what the problem is, right? Small landlords such as myself oftentimes will charge below what the going market rate is for rent, right? Because they just want to keep the unit occupied. That's what a lot of small mom and pop landlords are doing. So when we finally do start to raise the rents, we get punished. We get punished by rent control laws and laws like this, which don't allow us to raise the rent unless we pay some big payout to these tenants. These tenants don't deserve a dime, not one dime. So let's say the average rent in the area is $1,000 a month, right? Let's just use my simple math because I like to use simple math to make things easy. Well, some small mom and pop landlords, they might be only charging $500 or $600 a month. So they're like, okay, well, I need to bring my rents up to $1,000 a month right now, and it'll be in line with what the rest of the market is charging. So they try to bring it up to $1,000 a month, and guess what? You're violating this law, and now you have to pay the tenant a bonus. That's right, because you wanted to raise from super low, cheap rents up to, just the normal rent. You had to pay a bonus to this tenant. Just give them free money. Because that's what they think a landlord is. They think that we are social service providers and that, we need to, we're all rich. You all need to pay these tenants. No, shut the heck up with that garbage, okay? It's garbage. It's a lie. I can tell you right now that the grand majority of small landlords are just middle-class people. They are not super rich. They do not have the money to pull out of their pockets every time a tenant, feels like, well, I need a bonus, okay? So, you know what? Rewarding tenants for being bad is a bad idea, in my opinion, According to... Oh, I'm sorry. Tenants and rent-stabilized units or units covered under a separate state law already have just cause protection. The new law, expected to be approved by the council this month, expands just cause protections to tenants in 396,000 units in Los Angeles. An exception was carved out for short-term leases with an amendment to the proposal setting the just cause protection to kick in at the end of a tenant's first lease or after 12 months, whichever comes first, the news reported. Under the new law, landlords will be required to pay relocation assistance to renters who decide not to renew their lease because their rent is going up more than 10% or by more than the consumer price index plus 5%. The relocation assistance is pegged to 3 times the fair market rent plus $1,411 in moving costs. According to the Los Angeles Housing Department, fair market rent for a one-bedroom apartment in LA is $1,747. The fair market for a two-bedroom is $2,222. Yeah. So yeah, they are basically screwing landlords over with this. Now, my question is, what are the exceptions to this rule when they said that it will kick in at the end of the first lease or after 12, the tenant's first lease or after 12 months, right? So is there a way around this by maybe saying, okay, well, I'm only going to have an 11-month lease? You know what I mean? I don't know if there is a way around this where a landlord would still be able to do, get rid of this tenant. This is awful, okay? This is absolutely awful. And as I've said many, many times before, okay, if you're a small landlord, you own one house, and you fall under this trap, it might be a good idea to sell, okay? It might be a good idea to sell that property and then move that investment over to somewhere that doesn't have these laws. And that could be somewhere even within California. But, I personally wouldn't invest in California, but I'm just saying, if you get outside of the city of Los Angeles, at least you won't have to deal with this specific nonsense. Now, there's plenty of nonsense outside of LA as well in California, right? But, this is bad, okay? This is bad, So my suggestion would be, maybe you can find somewhere where they actually treat you better and treat you like you have some sort of property rights. Regarding evictions for tenants who are behind on rent payments, the new law allows tenants who are past due to stay in their apartments for a month unless they owe more than 1 month's worth of fair market rent. The eviction moratorium established during the pandemic in LA ends on January 31st with the expiration of the city's COVID-19 local state of emergency. Tenant rights advocates have been pushing the city council to enact a replacement for the moratorium before it expires. So yeah, that's what this really falls down to, is they're trying to replace the eviction moratorium with some sort of permanent eviction moratorium. They want tenants to never be able to be evicted. They want rent control in place. They want to basically punish the landlords who, even had the audacity to want to operate a business profitably within the city limits. And you know what? The result's going to be a lot less rentals, a lot less affordable rentals, less affordable housing, more homelessness, all the problems that they think they're going to solve with all these rules, they're actually being exacerbated by these rules.